Hello everybody, I'm Roadblock. This is a Raid Shadow Legends video. Dog hair, of course, right when I start the video. Anyways, we are here to talk about this guy. I want you to know I had to mentally think about how hard I'm gonna like to put where to. Anyways, I'm pointing to a wall for me, right? This isn't, but I practiced it for you guys, and I want credit for that. So we're here to talk about this guy. So Brugard Jeroboam, I don't know the right way to say that, but I think that this champion is the right champion at the wrong time. Um, and the reason I think that is because I think the kit is pretty reasonable for most champions. First, let's dive into the kit and then we'll talk about I'll give you my thoughts on it and kind of, I'll give you my thoughts on each ability and then I'll kind of give you my big review of the kit and bring it all full circle. So, right at the gate on the A1 attacks one here. I'm going to just move myself over here. I'm sorry that it keeps dropping that, but so attacks one enemy 2 times, has a 35% chance of decreasing the cooldown of a random ally's skill by 1 turn. So much like Ancora's A1 and Padrig's as well. If an ally had their cooldown increased, also fills that turn meter by 10%. That's pretty good. I like that a lot. Then you have a cleanse, removes all debuffs from all allies, heals all allies by 15% of this champion's max HP. That is a good heal. Also heals each ally by an extra 2% for each debuff removed from them by this skill. Places a shield buff on all allies equal to 15% of this champion's max HP for 2 turns. Books to a 3-turn cooldown. So, plain and simple, this is a 3-turn cleanse, which you want in many areas of the game. But what I really find interesting about it, there's actually 2 champions combined into one here. So the full cleanse, but like Pythion does a full cleanse and heals for each debuff removed. I think his heal is better. 2% is not great. I don't know off the top of my head, and I guess I suppose I could look it up. We could just do this really quickly. Let's look up Pythion. Um, yeah, heals them by 10% of their max HP, heals each ally by an extra 5% of their max HP. So while that sounds bigger, right? 5% is bigger than 2%. The reality is it's 2% of this guy's HP, and you're going to have him in high HP, I would assume. So, um, so I think this is probably slightly better as a heal. The cleanse is the same. The only difference is instead of a block debuffs, we get a shield, which is the same thing that we get out of several other champions that have a 3-turn cleanse and a shield. And the shield is based on his max HP. He's defense based. This is a frustration for me quite often. They did the same thing with Mithrala, that she's defense based, but her shield is based on her HP. You'd like to see that be based around her defense. That tends to perform a little better, but and then they can do a little bit more damage that way and be less of just a pure support. But that's probably why they do this, right? We don't want him to be hitting hard, and we want him to be just support, I feel like is what maybe they're going for. But either way, I like it. I think it's a good cleanse, a 3-turn cleanse. While 3-turn cleanses are common, like you can get one in the event of a rare with Reliquary Tender, yeah. But it's still nice to have, especially on legendaries, especially, because of their higher health pools and better stats, better speeds, all of those things, right? So I think this is a fine, decent ability, right? It's very much like Pythion's, but you also get a shield. So in many ways better, right? not only are you healing people, but you're also increasing their max HP, if you will, by giving them those big shields. So I like it. Here we have, for the A3, we have a 100% chance when booked of increasing the duration of all enemy debuffs by 1 turn. Good. Also has a 75% chance of, or sorry, also has a 100% chance when booked of increasing the duration of ally buffs. And then fills the turn meter of all allies by 20%. This, I mean, 20% turn meter fill is good. Now, again, many parallels to existing champions. Ancora comes to mind. So Ancora has a turn meter fill, but hers is on that same cleanse, and she gives a 10% turn meter fill. While in the case of this guy, we're on different abilities, right? So we have a turn meter fill here, and then the cleanse here. Now, it is interesting that he is a buff extender. For Wixwell teams, this would be valuable to have, right? He can extend buffs. This can help you build the Wixwell Infinity teams in Clan Boss, while also giving you a solid support. Not to mention that this pairs very well. The A1 pairs very well with a Wixwell Infinity team. Now, granted, there's no guarantee that you're going to decrease one of the buff extenders cooldowns, or more specifically Wixwell's cooldown, because that would make your shield go up faster. There's no guarantee there, but there's a chance, and it could help. So yeah, I think this, it's fine. And then also increasing duration of enemy buffs, or enemy debuffs rather, is actually very useful. You can extend poisons on Clan Boss. You can extend other debuffs in other areas of the game, whether it be arena or certain bosses where you're trying to maintain those debuffs. There is certainly value to this ability as well. I think that this is a perfectly acceptable ability. I'll kind of review the kit in a whole. Let's finish the last one here. So the passive effect, turn meter reduction effects used against this champion are decreased by 50%. Also fills this champion's turn meter by 20% whenever a stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, true fear, petrification, or sheep debuff is placed on an ally. The typical multiple champions rule applies. So also fills the champions by 20% whenever is placed on an ally. So, okay. The active effect, whenever a stun, freeze, or blah, blah, blah is removed or expires on an ally, fills their turn meter by 20%. If they're, okay. So this one's a little, it reads funky, right? Whenever a hard CC debuff is removed or expires on an ally, fills their turn meter by 20%. So that's the active effect that has a cooldown, that has a 2-turn cooldown. When booked, right? You see -1/-1 that reduces this from a 4-turn to a 2-turn cooldown. The passive effect is always active, so he will always be getting the turn meter fill when hard CC is placed out there. It's not a perfect Armand's counter, but there is some countering I see here in Armand's. Now, unfortunately, you still probably get stunned, so really you're just getting out of the stun faster. But theoretically, this would apply to yourself. So here's the way I see it happening. This guy gets stunned. The whole team gets stunned. He gains 80% turn meter. He then wakes up from the stun. The waking up from the stun expires. So then that fills his turn meter by 20%. So not great, right? You would prefer to have a bigger head start than that. But if he's fast and accurate, then you may have an opportunity to cleanse the team, heal them, put a shield on them, and potentially gain control back, right? Or you could even have the choice to No, sorry, this is not a, yeah, sorry, I'm thinking incorrectly here. So, not exactly the best. Like when you read it at first, you're like, oh, Armand's counter, got it. And that's what I thought too when I first read the kit. Um, but quite, I don't think it's tuned well enough to be an outright Armand's counter. But I do think this is a viable champion. Um, I certainly like this guy will get a lot of turns in Hydra, a lot of fears going out in Hydra. Um, so that's going to help, pump his turn meter because whenever it's placed on an ally, he gains 20% turn meter. So boom, 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 right? Lots of turn meter. Um, but here's why I say that I think his kit is good, but it's at the wrong time. I don't know about you guys, but I have gone for a lot of fusions, it feels like, right? We had Shayak. Um, everyone, I went for him because of the FOMO, because of the dog, right? I wanted to know, I didn't want to skip him. And then they put out this crazy good dog as what I thought would be a login champion or another fusion in the future, or they just release one and make a guaranteed champion. Who knows how they're going to give it to us? Or they may not give it to us. They may just introduce it to the pool. Whatever the case may be, I didn't want to miss out. That's what FOMO is, fear of missing out. I didn't want to miss out on another great combo, right? I missed out on Narcissus Ancora. I missed out on Teras Marishka. Like, you know, I didn't want to miss out. So I jumped on Shayak. And then we had Scorid, who his kit sounded like it would be really interesting. I never ended up building him, so I don't really know personally, but I also haven't seen a lot of content about him. So that leads me to believe that maybe he didn't quite succeed where people wanted him to. He could have, by the way. You guys are going to come at me in the comments if I'm wrong about that. I'm just sharing my point of view, my perspective, because I haven't built him. I haven't bothered to use him. I didn't really see how he fit in, but there was again FOMO, like, well, what if he's good? And then Thor is good. We looked at the kit. We're like, okay, yeah, this guy is going to be good. He is good. People have tested him. We went after Thor, and now because he's so good, I really want his soul. So I'm doing another fusion. And so, like, I'm burnt out. I'm so burnt out right now that I had to quit my third account, basically. I mean, you can just put it as simple as that. So many back to back fusions, so much work, energy, time, effort, all of that. And now we get a, I would say, a solid support champion. If you don't have a 3-turn cleanser, if for whatever reason that you're struggling in Hydra and you don't have Mithrala, this is a champion that could help you. Just plain and simple. I wouldn't say that he's as good as Mithrala, but he is a 3-turn cleanser when booked. A buff extender, turn meter filler. This is a good champion for Hydra and can help you get Mithrala. Furthermore, for all those of the only difference between him and Python, I mean, not only, I'm being hyperbolic there, but one of the major differences is that he doesn't have the revive that Python has. So you do get that extra sense of security, but a really good healer, shielder, cleanser like this, I think people maybe sometime may, and I've actually made a video on this that I didn't release. You can find the rant that I did in the VODs of my live streams about Syl, but I think people over prioritize revives a little too much because ideally you'd build a team where nobody dies, right? And that's not easy to do. I'm not saying it is, but in the perfect world that would be the case. You know, if you're shoehorning somebody in there simply because they have a revive, but they don't necessarily combine well with the team or give you a real advantage in your fight, are you really buying yourself that much more power? I know specifically on um, Clan Boss, you maybe buy a couple more turns, maybe one or two. Uh, I want to be clear, that's very specific niche revives. I'm not talking, you know, I totally get that you could revive and get a whole five more turns after that. I'm just saying that, for the people that are using revives as a crutch, they may not have the gear to go that many more turns after a revive. But back to this guy. I think that this is a fine support champion. I think it's a well built kit. I think it makes sense. He works well with a lot of different champions that we've received as far as extending debuffs. So you can extend some hexes in Hydra. You can extend buffs, meaning that you're going to extend the shield that he places. You're going to extend increase attacks, strengthens, increase defenses, block debuffs if you're bringing it, speed buffs, right? Like that's valuable. I didn't really understand buff extension that well until I made a Wixwell team and I was like, this is super good. Why don't more people do this? And they do that. I just wasn't it was just a little, nugget of learning in the game that I hadn't encountered yet. So I think the kit is good. I think this is a good champion as a fusion because fusions are free champions, right? Is it good for my main account? No. I've got Pythion, I've got Ancora, I've got a plethora of supports. Is it good for my free to play? Actually, kinda. My only support right now is Mithrala, and she doesn't heal. She cleanses, but she doesn't bring my health back. So I actually have to combine her quite often with a small healer. So there's a possibility that Brugard could perhaps fill out that role. However, I'm just, like I said, right champion at the wrong time. Yes, it's a fragment summon. They're easier to do. I hate not doing fragment summons because I love to hold on to these champions for a clan v clan when I need big points and I could just pop those fragments, right? In fact, I still might go for it on my main account as much as I don't want to, but we'll see how difficult it is, right? So I'm not saying anything for that. But my free to play, this is a definite skip. On my free to play, I don't have the resources, and this is an important distinction to remember too. If you're a free to play player or a low spender, keep in mind we have many different holidays coming up, right? So there's a potential Halloween fusion. I know that this guy's already going to be like the October fusion, but they might do one at the end of October. So you may have a Halloween fusion in there. You may have, we're going to have a Christmas fusion not long after that. We're going to have shard events. We're going to have great deals in the shop. A lot of stuff is going to be coming and kind of going on in the next few months. So just take all that information as you will and use that information for your account accordingly. For me and my accounts, it's probably a skip. I did just say I might still do him, but again, my main account, if I'm struggling, buy a little energy. If I need a shard here or there, I can do that, right? Not every account has that. Not every account wants that. And a lot of you guys are here as free-to-play players. So as a free-to-play, after everything that we've all probably done for Thor, you really need to look at your account and ask yourself, do I need a 3-turn cleanser and a buff extender in the same character, right? If the answer is yes, you got your guy. If the answer's maybe, it might be worth a skip and save for potentially better. Now, by the way, those fusions can be just as bad. And I want to be clear about that. I mean, you could, there is a strong possibility that those fusions don't deliver the way that we would expect, and you may regret not getting this guy. But I don't think he's necessarily going to change the meta. I think he's just a good support, and if you need a good support, I think you should highly consider going for him. He will help many of you in Hydra if you are struggling. But that's everything I've got. I just wanted to give my quick review. Thank you for watching. If you're new here, please consider subscribing. Um, it's the best way to support my channel right now. And I do have to go. I'm late for streaming. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you on the next video. Take care.